Hello guys and welcome back. In today's video, what is making a lot of men to still remain single? Why are a lot of men not getting into relationships? They no longer want to date anymore. They no longer want to date women anymore. What is making them to still remain single? A lot of men have been complaining that there are no good enough women left outside there. They can't get good women to date or to be into a relationship with. Another thing is that the men or the guys are actually saying that they've been in narcissist relationships, they've been in toxic relationships, and this has actually made these kind of guys to decide that they're still going to remain single and they no longer want to get married or they don't want to get into the dating scene again. So guys, let's go straight to this video and find out what is making these men or these guys to still remain single and they don't want to get married or they don't want to get into a relationship. They are no longer dating anymore.
Here's some crazy research for you. So a third of men, 33%, a little over a third of men between the ages of 18 and 29 are not only single, but they're not actively looking for a partner. The same study said that by the year 2030, that 45% of women between the ages of 20 and 45 will be single. So I've got a question for the men, because I see it all the time in my comments. Most of my comments are filled with guys saying we're done. We're not looking. We like our peace. I need some more talk from you guys. Tell me why you're done. Tell me why you don't want to have a partner in life. Tell me why it's more worth it to be single than to have a partner. Even if you weren't to remarry, just to have a partner. I mean, I've talked to a lot of men. I've got my answers, but I want to hear it in the comments. So please, drop it in the comments.
And I've just watched a video from one of my mates that I follow. His name's Devil's Advocate. Go and check his channel out. And on there, it's a crazy statistic. I don't know where it's come from. It was a young woman talking on one of his videos. I think he duetted. And basically what she was saying was she's been looking into some statistics about dating. And she's saying that since the pandemic in 2019, the percentage of men looking for dates and casually dating, looking for a partner, is down by 50%. Now, I'm going to do a little bit more digging to see where these stats are coming from. But in my understanding, I think this is probably true. Men aren't looking to date anymore. They're not really bothered about a girlfriend or a long-term relationship. I'm just wondering what this means for the human race. I mean, imagine if that statistic carries on going the way it is, or the trajectory that it's on. Down 50% since 2019 in 4 years. So imagine in another 4 years, going to have another drop. What do you think, women? Is it getting more difficult to find casual dates or to find a partner? Are you all just online chatting? I've heard that some people are even having relationships with AI bots, chat bots and things like that. I hope it's not true.
Yes, ladies, what is going on? What is happening? A lot of men have decided to still remain single. They no longer want to date anymore. They don't want to date women anymore, any longer. What is making them to still remain single? Statistics have shown that in the past years, a lot of guys were actually approaching women. They were actually chasing women, approaching women. But as we go as per the statistics right now, a lot of guys have decided to go single, to remain single. Reason being, they've been through a lot of toxic relationships with women, and this has made these men to decide that they are no longer going to date anymore or going to get married. And we've seen in other scenarios whereby a lot of young guys, a lot of young men have decided to go for mature women. They're actually dating older women because the younger women are actually they are not the kind of women that they expect they're going to be dating. They prefer to go for older and mature women. And this has really affected the dating scene for the boy child. And this is the reason why they're remaining single as boys or guys.
I'm just going to talk about this comment that was left on one of my videos, and there's quite a few men that leave similar comments to this, and this proclamation that, you know, this is why men are staying single. And this is obviously not all men, but there is a reason why men do this. And the reason that men say I'm staying single, which in other terms basically means I'm also willing to have a string of hookups that mean nothing to get my own needs satisfied, is that the reason that they do this is because they are not willing to face themselves. Any man that says, I'm staying single, is because they do not want to be in a situation that is causing them to face parts of themselves that have been denied, that have been repressed, where they are not taking accountability for the way that they show up in relationships. And obviously, if they're not in relationship or opening themselves up to the right person, they're not going to have this mirroring. And so by isolating and saying, this is why men are staying single, it's just basically another way of saying, I don't want to face myself. Because unfortunately in Western society and sort of in the modern world, men are becoming apathetic, they're becoming more feminized. And when wounded feminine energy shows up in men, it causes them to lack accountability, to not want to take responsibility, to be flighty, to not commit to things, which is automatically a massive turn-off to women that are in a healed feminine energy. And so the sorts of women that they would actually, thrive in relationship with, they're not attracting anyway, because they're not opening themselves up to the possibility that actually they're the ones that are responsible for the type of women that they're actually pulling in the first place. And so it becomes this vicious cycle. But when men say, that they're staying single as an act of, trying to control their circumstances, the reality is underneath that they're feeling very much out of control. And because they don't have a language for communicating, what's going on underneath, because no man that is in a healed masculine energy is going to make this proclamation and decide that he's going to be single for the rest of his life. Because when you look at the way that obviously masculine energy thrives in life, it is to build, it's to continuously have something to move towards, to build some sort of legacy for self, and to feel as if they're creating a foundation, and building something. And so when you're saying, I'm cutting off my own growth, which is obviously what comes from being in a relationship anyway, they're automatically showcasing they're not actually in their masculine. Because to get to the end of your life and basically look back and say, I worked a job that was okay, that paid the bills, sat on my own money so I didn't have to pay anything, for women, and, got to the end of my life with a string of hookups. You look back at that as a legacy for a male, and the level of regret that would come with that is not going to feel good. So if a man makes this proclamation, then this is what he really means. And emotional fulfillment in life comes from the depth of intimacy we have with our partners, with the people that are closest to us. And when we cut ourselves off from that and the possibility of exploring that, we don't live an emotionally fulfilling life. We live a life that's filled with surface level distractions, surface level projections that don't actually lean into anything of depth. And so when a man says this, he's likely very much in his feminine, in an apathetic energy where he doesn't want to commit to things. And so within a relationship, he's not going to take accountability. This is obviously very different for a man that chooses to stay single until the right person comes along and works on himself in the meantime. This is an attribute of a healthy masculine male, and a man that's able to concentrate and focus his energy in such a way that's actually going to be really supportive and conducive once the right partner shows up, or once he's ready to take that step with the right partner. And this is the sort of dynamic and mentality that actually breeds and calls in soul connection as well, because the man is anchored into his masculine energy as opposed to dismissing the concept of relationship altogether, which is naturally a byproduct of being very wounded. And soul connection in and of itself can only come in when you are truly connected to yourself, whether you're male or female. So if you don't have a deep understanding of, your own psyche, the way that you operate, of your own triggers, where you're not taking accountability and reconciling that internally, you're not actually in a position to attract in what would be like a deep soul connection anyway. So all of these things are interconnected. They all play into one another. But the difference is that when you are connected to self, you see the mirroring and the divinity in others. When you are not connected to yourself, you see through the eyes of separation, of somebody else wanting to take from you, as opposed to being with an open and generous heart that actually allows you to feel the fullness of what a relationship can actually bring for you.
Men don't go after women anymore nowadays. And part of the reason is that it's just become so hard because we women have become so demanding. Not that long ago, a marriage was seen as an economical agreement, and the husband was expected to provide for his family and to protect his family. But in those days, we women were still financially dependent on men. But now that we make our own money, we don't just want a husband to be a provider or to protect us, but we want a husband husband who can really understand us, who can feel us emotionally, and who can help in the household, and wait a minute, who can also be a very good father to our kids. But it's not just because we're financially independent that we have these expectations. It's also that society, the way it's set up, has changed completely. We used to live in a society in which we had a whole support system around us. We would have barbecues with the neighbor on the corner every Sunday. We would drink coffees with our neighbor every morning, and we would discuss our problems. But nowadays, because we also work, we live way more isolated, and the time we have off, we spend more and more with this one person who's our husband. And what that looks like in reality is that we sit on the sofa at night and we watch TV together. We look at rom-coms in which the man goes through hell and back to win a woman's heart. So besides the fact that practically seen we expect more from our men, our brains are also fed with all these fantasies about how relationships should and could be. And men have stopped to go after women because they freak out with the thought that they have to deliver all these things that women expect nowadays.
Why American men don't want to date American women anymore. A little disclaimer, I do live in the US for the past 7 years. 1. Some American men feel that American women are very entitled. They feel that many American women expect a partner who fit a specific ideal. He has to be smart, attractive, successful, fit. They believe that many American women have unrealistic expectations. They expect their partners to do everything, and they expect their partners to put their needs above their own. 2, because of the rise of radical feminism, there is a loss of femininity among American women, and they even started to adopt some masculine traits. 3, opportunistic behavior. A big percentage of divorces are initiated by women, and usually it's because they prioritize their career and personal growth over their family life. And a lot of men also express some frustration because they feel that there is a lack of commitment and loyalty among American women. And that is why a lot of American men are now dating non-American women, because they believe that non-American women tend to prioritize mutual respect, shared values, and commitment.
Men are staying single because it's not men that don't feel worthy of love. It's that they don't trust that women are going to give them the love they feel they deserve. There's ulterior motives, conditions, acts of service they have to do in order to be worthy of such love, versus women just have to be women, because a lot of the times they use their kitty as a bargaining chip, as a prize to be won. Well, when you use that as a tool to bargain with, then it becomes a commodity and it lessens the value for both sexes. So for some, it's far less problematic to just be single. They respect their worth, they just don't feel that a woman respects theirs.
That's it for today, guys. There we go. What is the reason? What is making a lot of guys, a lot of men to still remain single? They're actually no longer dating anymore. First of all, we know that a lot of guys in this modern world, many of these guys, they are trying to run away from their responsibilities, claiming they want to remain single. They don't want to be accountable. They don't want to take accountability. For example, they fear responsibilities in a relationship or in a marriage. This guy is fearing the moment he's going to start a family. What am I going to do? What are my responsibilities there? And so this is making these guys to shun away or to run away from their responsibilities. They're actually not being accountable. They're running away from their responsibilities as men or as guys. And then another thing is that these kind of men, or the so-called guys, they still remain single because they're claiming that they can't find good enough women outside this one. In the world, they can't find good women. They're complaining they've been in toxic relationships, they've been dealing with narcissists, and so this has made a lot of these guys to still remain single. So guys, thank you so much. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this video? Do you think that these guys don't want to date anymore? What is making these guys to stay out of the dating scene? They don't want to get into a relationship with women anymore. Let me know this in the comment section, and bye bye for now.